A video every single day of the month. I didn't think I could do it, but I did. I mean, this month has been hectic. We fell behind a few places every now and again, but overall, I think success. You know, let's take a minute to go back through the month and just revel in all the accomplishments we made. So, let's open the web browser here. If you're wondering about my attire, it's snowing outside, so I just went out to film some nonsense in that for another video up ahead, which you'll see in a little bit. Let's see here. Alright, videos, let's count them up. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I mean, I knew I was bad at math, but not like this. I don't even think all of these are Illya related. What the What? Oh shit, I gotta start making up for lost time. List of topics. Okay. Yeah, see, this is starting to make more sense. I guess nothing else to do. I guess I'll just talk about these topics, just off the top of my head. I really need to stop going on 45 to 50-minute tangents about Satsuki and Illya route lore. Jeez. Anyways, let's just start at the top of the list. The 5 worst/best bad ends in Fate Stay Night, Einsburn edition. So, I think what I was getting at with this is, you know, running down the list of Illya bad ends in Fate Stay Night, of which there are plenty. Typically early on towards the route, but I think I made a list for this, actually. Let's check up on that. At least I'm fairly certain I made it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, so the Dress of Heaven bad end. Let's minimize Audacity real quick. Okay, so the list I have here, the list I have here is the Dress of Heaven bad end, which is in the Fate route, I believe on the 11th day, where Shiro gets kidnapped by Illya. You're given the option to submit to her or disobey her. Disobey? You get the option to disobey her. If you choose to obey her, you're taken to the Dress of Heaven bad end, which, as originally written in the Tiger Dojo, would have involved a pretty salacious CG. As Taiga puts it, our dearest Fujimura-sensei, it would have been Arrow Arrow. So, again, honing back to those original elements of the Illya route in terms of stuff being a little bit more lewd than you would like. It would involve Shiro having his body taken out of his soul. What? Reverse that. Have his soul taken out of his body like in the normal end, but it would have continued for Illya to go a little bit, crazy. So next is have her forgive me, which is a very pretentious option to say the least. It's in day 7 of Heaven's Feel. That sounds about right. The same part where cinema and homesickness can take place, which were scenes in that route. But I covered one of those in my hour-long Illya video, which go watch it. But in this bad end, you have her forgive you, and Illya just leaves. She just leaves, and a few days later, when Sakura's losing herself, Illya shows up, kills Shiro, takes... Does she take Saber? Yeah, I believe she kills Shiro, takes Saber, and just overall gets dead set on winning the Holy Grail War before Sakura. Yeah, that's all I have to say about this. This would have been a very short video, honestly. And then we get to more of the generic bad ends, if you will, from here on out. Like, for instance, quit the Guerrilla War. The beginning of the route, I'm pretty sure everyone's gotten curious enough to see this at some point. Shiro goes to at the church. Shiro says, "This is stupid. Why would I participate in killing people? That's not justice." And so he, in a savior-like manner, he gives away his command seals, mantra? There's too many fucking names for that. He gives up his command spells to Kirei, walks out of the church, and who should he meet but Miss Einsburn? From there, he dies. And that's that bad end. It's probably the first one most people would have seen in the visual novel, at least most curious people, like myself. The next one is abandoning the battlefield in the UBW route against Berserker, in which Shiro dies. And the last bad end is the Mind of Steel ending in Heaven's Steel, and I'm counting this as an Illya one, because she's the one who gives Shiro the push, regardless of the choice he makes, to go and pursue his ideals, go and pursue his dream. So she gives him the push, even though she clearly does not want it, to go and do what her father couldn't. And those are the top 5, in no particular order, bad ends in Fate Stay Night Einsburn Edition. Alright, what's next on the list? Hiroyama Hiroshi's start as a doujin maker to writing Prillia. Well, I had intended to do research for this one, but all I could really tell you about this in the brief summations that I've gotten from a video that's still in the editor, but after that 40-hour editing session for the Illya route video, I was petrified about opening it up again. But from the brief glimmers of that I've gotten, Hiroyama Hiroshi was really into Tsukihime, was a fan of Type Moon fairly early on, and of course, once Fate Stay Night had released, he started, like many people, or at least a small subsect of people in the fandom, started really gravitating towards Illya as a character. And due to this, he started honing his skills as a doujin writer. You can find the decent majority of his doujins online, all of which are really good quality. Again, I got a video in the editor about this, hopefully delayed Illya month as it is, to be coming out somewhat soon. And essentially, from here, all I have is speculation on my part. His doujins were just so incredulously good that Type Moon noticed and gave him a slot to really write the second best thing Type Moon's ever put out. Sorry to all my mutuals on Twitter, but still like Tsukihime more. Anyways, okay, second topic out of the way. Let's move on to the third. Trying to piece together what the Illya route would have been. I did that already. From here we have the changes made in Dean Stay Night. How they're not nearly as major as people blow them out to be. Again, this is another video I have in the editor at the moment. So, well, not necessarily in the editor. Half of it's in the editor, but at the same time, I still have half the show to watch. I kind of got sidetracked with that Illya lore video. But, yeah, hey, that's another one that'll hopefully come out. Of course, again, delayed a bit, but will hopefully come out somewhat soon. From here, we have Heaven's Feel 1 fails as an adaptation. Now, I could have probably made a video just as long as Heaven's Feel, as the movies, for this. But you see, a lot of this stuff I already covered in the Illya analysis, the Illya and Heaven's Feel analysis. I stated how important those scenes were to the plot, and while I have a sinking suspicion, I still haven't done this yet because I'm not going to go to the movie theaters during all of what's happening, but I have a sinking suspicion that these movies do work better as a trilogy, but when you watch them back to back to back and not years apart like the majority of the fans did. But as it stands, Heaven's Feel 1 as an adaptation doesn't just fail because of the Illya stuff. It's taking the biggest route of the visual novel and segmenting it into, it's not segmenting it and then shortening those segments. So inevitably, cuts are going to be made in a lot of places. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all these cuts. I don't think anyone agrees with all these cuts. They devalue a lot of the characterization we got, not just in Illya, but in Sakura and Shiro and fucking everybody. Of course, my mind always hones in on the Illya stuff. And in terms of that stuff, we got her initial meeting with Shiro afterwards cut out, all the subsequent meetings cut out, until the second movie at least, which is a weird hodgepodge of all the other scenes, of all of her scenes, into this one really weird mesh that does not flow in the slightest. We don't even get a conversation really between the two. It's just Illya jumps on Shiro, builds a snowman, and that's the scene. Good enough. I suppose it's better than fucking nothing, but that's the second movie, though. Heaven's Feel 1 fails as an adaptation because of what it doesn't adapt. Which I suppose I can just go ahead and combine these two topics into one, because the next on the list is Heaven's Feel 2 fails as an adaptation. You know what? Let's just go get those real quick. I only recently realized that the interview for the Heaven's Feel 2 booklet was still in my garbage can until fairly recently. We do good gags here, I think. But Heaven's Feel 2 doesn't really... It's confused, I think is the best way to put it. It has... I'll stand by it having good animation, good OST and whatnot. Well, average OST. It's alright. But where it fails, again, is just trying to adapt so much in one movie. And this does work wonders for the third movie, because the third movie can actually take its time and spend time with each character. It's kind of like the first movie in that regard. The first movie may not have adapted too terribly much, but it did knock some of those character interactions out of the water. In particular, Shiro and Sakura's interactions in both of these movies. It's good stuff, these adaptations just fall flat for an ungodly amount of reasons, and off the top of my head, it's just what they didn't adapt. It's just what they didn't adapt, or what they changed, because it was a lot. They changed a fuck ton. I say a fuck ton, but really it is minor stuff in the grand scheme of things, but, as one-sided as I am in Type Moon content, I just can't help but see it. And that moves us on to our next topic on the list, which is Heaven's Feel 3 works perfectly as an adaptation. I already made a video about this. I don't know why I had this thought in my head, but I already made a video about this. I made a video talking about my initial thoughts after watching Heaven's Feel 3 for the first time on that lovely, lovely cam rip, which, even without subtitles, if you are a fan enough, I suppose is the word I'm looking for, of the visual novel, then you will recognize scenes in there, like the post-Die Lorelei conversation between Illya and Shiro was adapted into that movie. Now, does that replace what the second movie did in calling it a day for Shiro and Sakura? I mean, not really. It still hurts a lot, but that conversation being in there is really important for this movie, for these movies, for Heaven's Feel as a whole, because without all of the other stuff is important to what builds upon for Illya to finally make the decision to sacrifice herself, but above all, it's the Die Lorelei conversation that pushes Illya over the edge to actually do what she has to do in sacrificing herself to save her little brother. It's... I'm glad. That's why the third movie works so well as an adaptation, because it actually takes its time to... Ooh, I need to get closer to the mic. It actually takes its time to adapt those elements into something good, It takes those elements, takes its time to adapt those elements into something, and I think is legitimately compelling, unlike the first two movies here, which, honestly, if I move back the rose-peeled glasses, the rose-tinted glasses, like this, I haven't looked at myself without glasses in a month. That's going to be fun to look back in the editor. But if I move back those glasses and really just look at what these movies did and compare it to what the third movie also did, it's easy to judge something before it's fully completed, especially a trilogy of movies. Because with the way Fate's Stay Night works, you could argue it's a story that really comes together in the last half of every route. But that's besides the point. Let's move on to the next tangent on our list. It is comparing the Die Lorelei poem to Illya's character, which... let me take a minute to open up that poem. We'll do a read-through, and I'll just give my initial thought. I don't know what it can mean that I am so sad. A fairy tale from ancient times which I can't get out of my mind. The air is cool and it's getting dark, and in the Rhine is flowing peacefully. The mountain's peak is glittering in the evening sunshine. The most beautiful virgin is sitting up there marvelously. Her golden jewelry is sparkling. She combs her golden hair. She combs it with a golden comb, and at the same time sings a song that has a wondrous, tremendous melody. The boatman in his little ship is seized by a mad woe. He doesn't see the rocky reefs. He's only looking up into the heights. I believe the waves will engulf boatman and boat in the end, and that, with her singing, the Lorelei has done. The first few measures, I don't know what it can mean that I am so sad. A fairy tale from the ancient times, which I can't get out from my mind. With that, I kind of think about, Illya's past, her having memories of those happy days where she was a family with her mother and father, and how even in recent times, as recent as the Fifth Holy Grail War, she can't get those memories out of her mind. It motivates her to push forward due to her grudge, but at the same time, gives her a longing for it. Even in that line, we see a decent amount. And the poem goes on to talk about the air is cool and getting dark, and the Rhine is flowing peacefully. Meaning, of course, this all conjecture on my part, but read this and I think about how she acknowledges where she'll likely be by the end of the war, that being dead. But she's come to grips with it. That's why, even though the air is cool and getting dark, life flows on peacefully. Especially true in Heaven's Feel, where she sings the song, and due to Shiro and her interactions, has already accepted her fate. Really is beautiful. And the mountain's peak is glittering in the evening sunshine. I think, again, you could connect that in some part to how... You can connect that in some part to Shiro and Illya's relationship as a whole. As that to her is it's the last bastion of what she'll hold on to and love in her life. She combs it with a golden comb and at the same time sings a song that has a wondrous, tremendous melody. You could just... That's self-explanatory. It's just her singing Die Lorelei. It's just Illya singing Die Lorelei in Heavensfeel. That moment is wondrous and tremendous for reasons I, again, covered in my analysis of Heavensfeel, which I will shill to no end because honest to God, feel like that's my first good video. And the last little bit, I forget the proper terminology, but the last little bit where it talks about the boatman, how he will be engulfed just by the waves and rocks. That's a pretty fucking easy parallel to Shiro himself, who at this point, she knows is just one breath away from death. You know, with that shroud on his arm, if that ever gets removed, and even if it doesn't, it's likely he will die in the end. You know, so that's him getting engulfed, but even at the end of that, she's still singing. You know, the poem ends with Illya singing, just like Heavensfeel ends with Illya sacrificing herself. So, just a few neat parallels, I think. Just a few neat parallels. Let's move on to the next topic here. And we're back. Sorry, I had to fix some settings on my computer there for a bit. But, Illya route theory crafting. So, here is where I talk about how I've been working on my own little Illya route. I mentioned it briefly at the end of the Illya lore video, but yeah, that's what I initially did those analyses for all the way back, so I could get a real grasp of her character and, you know, start to figure out how those ideas would work in my own mind, how those ideas would work trying to put them to paper. And essentially, what I was going to do for this video was just talk about the Illya route, talk about all the ideas I have planned for it, which would be an hour-long video, kind of like this. But to surmise briefly just the points off the top of my head, it would kind of follow Heavensfeel in a sense, in terms of I want it to be, you know, that route split at day 9. I want it to continue from that point on, but to be able to do that, you have to have more Illya-centric scenes beforehand. You know, this eventually devolved where it kind of started going into its own unique kind of stuff. You know, for instance, the excerpt I uploaded months ago, the pancakes video, which is just Illya and Shiro cooking pancakes, eventually kind of evolved into a... Because now in my writings, it is a scene where all that stuff still happens, but onlooking all of this in the morning is Archer himself. You know, future Shiro. And in this scene, he would be watching them and he'd have this realization that, you know, maybe this timeline Shiro isn't so bad, maybe he can drop his grudge, and because by this point, Shiro has lost Saber, kind of like she did in the Fate route, and I believe a bit of UBW in training Shiro. Archer would pick up that mantle, because Tosaka or Ren, if you prefer that, Ren and Archer would be staying with Shiro and Illya, kind of like in an alliance of sorts. But Archer would see this, it would hit home for him, essentially. And because of this, he would start to train Shiro. He would accept that. You know, naturally this training would be aggressive as hell and oversought by both Illya and Ren. But it's still a big step for him. And, you know, plus, this opens up the opportunity to have more, or to have one Archer and Illya interaction, which is a crime that it hasn't happened before. So, you know, it could have happened in the Fate route, but we didn't see it. UBW obviously doesn't have any. Heavensfeel had Archer talking about Illya in a really, really bittersweet manner. Like, he wanted Shiro to protect her at all cost. Clearly, it's someone who was important to him. And if he comes from a universe post-Fate route, that should be self-explanatory. I mean, Illya would be kind of a constant force in his life, at least until she passed away. Uh, I think opening up that avenue in an attempt for Archer to talk to Illya, get some form of closure, if you will. Not necessarily move on and have a whole ass character arc like he did in UBW, but just enough to where he accepts this timeline's events as what has to happen. I think that has potential to really work out here. And that's just one example of like an ungodly amount. For instance, I've been throwing around the idea of having a Shinji Shinji kind of redemption arc in a sense, because he'd kind of get scared shitless at Sakura going all crazy early on and seek help from Shiro, kind of like he did in the Fate route where he asked Shiro for help. This time he doesn't even have Rider. He's just seeking some kind of solace. He doesn't go to the church because you can't trust Kotomine. I mean, I'll probably develop the reason for that more soon, but he'd essentially go to Shiro for help. Everyone would be against it, but ultimately this is Shiro's house, so he'd accept it. And at this point, Sakura is on a warpath of sorts. You know, he saw Shiro outright accept Illya and in turn rejecting her. You know, and this is after the first few days of Heaven's Feel, that attraction was already bolstered upon quite a bit. Eventually this leads to Shiro's house getting destroyed. Them, Illya, Shiro, and Shinji seeking refuge at the Einsburn Castle, which a few days would pass there, we get some maid development. Sakura, and over this time, Shinji would kind of have a decent amount of conversations with Shiro, talk about his past a bit, talk about those childhood memories they had together, which we haven't heard anything about, but hey, it was in the photo book in the first Heaven's Feel movie, so it has to exist. But kind of talk about those a bit. It'd dive into some dark territories with Shiro learning what exactly it was Shinji did, kind of like Mikia in the third Kara no Kyokai movie. He would still give him a place to have a shelter of a sorts. And, you know, Shinji would start to change as a character, but as with Darth Vader and Return of the Jedi, you can't really have a character like that have a redemption arc, or stick around afterwards. So ultimately, Sakura would come to the castle. You'd kind of get that assault on the Einsburn Castle that you kind of had in Heaven's Feel, but to a different degree here, because Sakura would kill Shinji. And when Ryder asks her about, hey, I know he was a prick, but you kind of just killed your brother. Are you sure you're okay with this? It would be, Sakura would lash out, kill Ryder. That would kind of be where she goes off the deep end a bit. Which, this isn't just hate on Sakura hour. She naturally is going to turn around by the end, kind of have a change of heart. Because I don't want to kill off Sakura. She's precious. She deserves better than that. But ultimately, those are just some of the ideas I've been tossing around for my own Illya route. I have like 60 fucking pages of notes written on the subject. Like I said, could continue on this for literal fucking hours, but let's just move on to the next topic for now. I hope that sufficed as the little teaser for the unnamed Illya route, which I have lovingly just referred to as Ilya's Feel. You see what you see? Yeah, you get it. I've just called it that in the meantime, but I don't know. It was fun. It's been fun to put together. You know, hopefully that'll be out somewhat. Now, I'm not going to say soon. Just somewhere off in the distance of the future. where I get the chops to actually put together my ludicrous amount of ideas for this route into something cohesive. Because I do kind of want to write it like the visual novel itself. But we'll just see how that goes. If you guys want to see a more in-depth video on this later on, just let me know. I'll get to it when I get to it. Anyways, moving on to the next topic, we have how Illya's character came to be. Fuck, I already covered that. I already covered that in the Illya lore video. So, moving on to our next topic, Illya versus Prilya is a meaningless debate. Now, this topic, it's pretty simple to get to the heart to. I mean, if you've spent any amount of time with either characters, or with both characters rather, if you spent any amount of time with both characters, you can clearly tell that they are different. Timeline shenanigans aside, Prilya is actually innocent at the start of Prilya. She's really... what's the word I'm looking for? She falls into those Emoto tropes that the original Stay Night Illya is accused for, but even then, Prilya still handles those tropes far better. But, Stay Night Illya may have that veneer on the outside, but she's a very different character. She's manipulative, vindictive, seductive at times. Just go reread the morning of day 10. I believe it's day 10 of Heaven's Feel, if you are unsure about that last claim, but she's more of an adult, essentially, whereas Prilya has more childlike traits in terms of personality. That's a really dumb, meaningless debate to compare the two, or to say that Prilya is the Illya route when they're essentially two different characters, only similar in name and sometimes hair color. Sometimes, like, oh my god. You know what? Just to make up for that last topic, here's our next topic. The hair color debate. Is it white? Okay, I'm not doing editing for this video because it is 1:37 on November 30th. It's the last day. I gotta upload this today. But is the hair color white? Or is it silver, blonde, platinum blonde? What color is it? Well, if we turn to our handy-dandy book here. I don't know if you can make this out, but on this... There we go. Yeah, on that, her hair is clearly white, but Ufotable isn't canon. Ufotable can't adapt shit. And if you look at the original sprites really closely and the stuff Shiro himself says about them, a silver-haired girl comes to mind. That's not white, that's fucking silver. There is a difference, trust me. But if you look closely at those real sprites, I'm more tempted to say platinum blonde, and that is only accentuated more in Prilya's design. Hiroyama, the writer for Prilya, is just all about Illya. His OC, I can't remember the name of him, but his original character that he kind of portrays himself as, his self-insert, if you will, it's what he depicts himself as, is essentially Illya, but instead of parting over the right eye, the hair parts in the middle. Even she's platinum blonde. And Illya and Prilya is platinum blonde herself. And I don't have to say how much Hiroyama himself loves Illya. I mean, those early doujins are just evident of that. And well, you could say that Prilya is the Illya route because Hiroyama has such this fascination with Illya. I still vehemently disagree. Hiroyama, with Prilya, has created an entirely different work connected to the Fate series in terms of it has Hollow Ataraxia, the Kaleido Ruby element from Hollow Ataraxia, and that one Ren scene, which is fucking hilarious. But essentially, Fate Khaled Liner Prisma Illya is Fate Zero's good end, if you will. I mean, just based on these weird timeline shenanigans I've heard where Kuritsugu and Irie leave the Fourth Grail War. Just give it up, because Illya was born 10 years later. Again, it's really weird timeline shenanigans that I don't fully understand, but are there anyways. So moving on to the next topic. Okay, so next we have what happened to Illya post Fate Route. There's conflicting information about this, because if you go to the last bonus Tiger Dojo with Taiga and Illya in the hot springs, Illya talks about post Fate Route as if Shiro has Illya there with him, he'll never turn into Archer, implying that she does indeed live a long life. But at the same time, you have Mato Zoken saying that because she is an Einsborn homunculus, she won't live very long in Heavensfeel. It's really conflicting information there, but just based off of everything, I like to believe there is a happy medium between the two, and that, well, not necessarily a happy medium, this is a sad medium, but a medium between the two nonetheless. That medium being, while she might not necessarily live a long life, she won't die immediately after the Grail War. I'd give her a few years. And there's actually a doujin I talk about in the doujin video I'm editing right now that handles this topic in a way that makes me fucking cry a lot. It was really beautifully handled, and I don't spoil it in that video, and I'll leave it to you to decide which doujin actually covers that when that video comes out. Again, eventually. Alright, so essentially, it's just hearsay, and there's my 2 cents on it. Moving on to the next topic on our list. Next topic on the list, Sitonai Servant Review. What I was going to do here is burn any future bridges I could have with any of the FGO content creators, which, far cry from maybe actually ever happening, but what I was going to do here is do a parody review of Sitonai. I was going to be like, next up, looking at her stats and skills, we got, something like that. Something dumb. Something vaguely comedic, maybe? But ultimately, to give you the full experience, let's just open up Sitonai's wiki real quick. Okay. Alright. It's really... Yeah, this is going to be some deep knowledge you're about to attain right here, dear viewer. Alright. To give you the full experience, let's just read off the wiki. Her max attack is 11,668, and if you grail her, which you should, you fucking coward, her attack raises to 12,772. Looking at her HP, we can see she has a max HP of 13,965, and if you grail her, which again, why wouldn't you? It's Illya. That's like mandatory grails, just like Neza is mandatory grails because Satsuki. She vaguely looks like Satsuki. Let me live my dream, damn it! But if you grail Sitonai, you can expect a max HP of 15,299. Looking at her star absorption, she has a star absorption of 102, an NP charge of 0.83%, a death rate of 25%, an NP charge defense of 4%, star generation of 10.2%, and her traits are Children Servants, Divine, Female, Humanoid, Illya, Pseudo-Servant, Servant, weak to Unuma Elish. Looking at her card selection, we can see she has a Quick Arts Buster deck, which is good. Looking at her skills, the first skill she has is Snow Fairy EX, which grants invincibility for 1 turn and reduces the party's damage taken for 3 attacks, 3 turns, with a max threshold of 500 damage with a 6-turn cooldown at level 10. For some reason that is her only skill here shown, but Oh, there we go. Second skill. Her second skill, unlocks after the first ascension, is called Emotional Freezing, rank B. It increases her own arts performance for 3 turns, grants self-debuff immunity 1 time for 3 turns, and at level 10, that is a 30% arts increase for 5 turns. Looking at her third skill, we have a word I can't pronounce, sorry in advance, but Kamu Yakur, rank A, a chance to increase her own attack by 20% for 3 turns, chance to gain 10 crit stars every turn for 3 turns, and charges her own NP gauge. And at max level, that is a charge of 30%, and at max level you have an 80% chance to proc the attack up and the star regen. You know, honestly, I rarely have this skill miss whenever I use it. Good skill. Looking at her passives, she has Magic Resistance rank C, which increases her own debuff resistance by 15%, Territory Creation rank A, which increases her arts performance by 10%, which works very nicely with her second skill to give her a 40% arts buff. If you use that with a craft essence like... what's it called? Royal Icing. You just take your arts cards and you just... It's good shit. And because of that, Sitonai NP looping is a very real thing, and it's so wonderful to pull off. Hate this game. Her other passives are Item Construction rank B, Goddess Essence rank B, and High Servant rank A, which doesn't have an effect. It's just there. Her Noble Phantasm is Opatukashike Okamunpe. I can't pronounce this shit for God. But that translates to Roar, my friend, my strength. Which it does stuff. It does some neat stuff. At level 1, it has a 900% damage, whatever that means. The overcharge effect is that it reduces their defense, reduces the enemy's defense for 3 turns, reduces their critical attack chance for 3 turns. At level 1, which is, unless you are ungodly lucky or hate yourself, is what you're going to be dealing with, is a 20% defense reduction, 20% defense reduction, and 20% crit chance reduction. Her stats are Strength rank E, Endurance rank D, Agility rank A, Mana EX because Grail Life, Luck rank A, NP rank A, and her Bond Craft Essence, Unforgettable One, increases the party's arts performance and NP damage by 10% when she's on the field, which pairs really nicely with her skills. You can kind of share that with everyone, though. Again, a craft essence like Royal Icing is probably going to do better for you. So, yeah. The last notes to keep in mind for this, and this is very important, you have to listen closely to this, that is her final Ascension art. If you don't keep it on that, you're just a coward. You're just afraid of the truth. Also, her third sprite is good. It's great. And April Fools. Oh, neat. Yeah. Anyways. Keep Sitonai on 4th Ascension. That's all I got for today. 4th Ascension? Now, her 3rd Ascension sprite is fine. Keep the art on 4th. Anyways, that's all I got for this dumb little reading off the wiki video. Did I give you an authentic FGO review experience? I really worked hard on that script just now. Moving on, the next topic on the list is, did you know visual novels? I don't know what this is. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking with this. I legitimately don't know what I was thinking with this. I think I might have been talking about Fate Stay Night fun facts, but that's again something I already did in that Illya lore video. I mean, half of that video is just me talking about random Type Moon shit, like obscure Satsuki lore, like that she was a gay male originally. Or all the just tons of material books Type Moon has. I do this like I'm going to edit something here, but I know I'm not. I have to get this out today because this is the rest of Illya month. I gotta be timely with this. Or I'll never let this down. I don't want to live this down. No shame. I will have no shame in this. I will do what I have to do to get these videos out on time because I care about my audience. I swear, I hate myself. Why did I start reading the maid routes in Tsukihime this early? Yeah, I kind of got sidetracked there. Sorry, audience. Dumb Illya fun facts featuring Twitter user at UniLunar. I don't know what was going to go into this one. Again, I think this was an idea we had conjured up in the moment, the heat of the moment. He had told me an Illya fun fact that I hadn't known before. I mean, it's probably somewhere in here. I've just totally forgotten about that conversation, nor do I have any more Illya fun facts after that Illya lore video? I mean, I suppose I could talk about how great the fan art of her feet is, which is how our conversations typically go nowadays, but I don't think... Also, go follow Twitter user at UniLuna. Lunar? At UniLunar. Good guy. Moving on to the next bump on our list, we have the Tiger Dojo completion bonuses. I brought this up a little bit earlier. It's the completion bonus you get for completing all the Tiger Dojos. It's Illya and Taiga sitting in the hot springs talking about just Fate Stay Night in general. It's there's a little bit of its production in there. There's a little bit of post-Fate Route shenanigans. Like, I think they briefly talk about how the Illya route was canceled, how Taiga doesn't have a route. It was interesting stuff. There's nothing really to analyze about it. It's just, if you haven't seen it, it's widely available on YouTube, so just go watch it, you dingus. Moving on to the next one, we have Fate Stay Night Cinema Analysis, which is an analysis of... you see, it all comes around. It all comes around, baby. Because you see, earlier I talked about Have Her Forgive Me in the Fate Stay Night's Bad End video, which you have just finished watching a few minutes ago. You're welcome for this quality content. But I also talked about homesickness in my Illya route analysis. Illya route, fuck, I wish it was the fucking Illya route. Heaven's Feel analysis. I talked about homesickness. I just finished talking about the other option you get there, Have Her Forgive Me, in which Illya shows up a few days later and just kills Shiro. And finally, we have this right here, Cinema, which was adapted into the Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel manga, and not adapted into the Heaven's Feel 2 movies, because Pseudo is a fucking coward! Anyways, this talks about, no, it illustrates for us in a beautifully painted CG and picture, which I would edit onto the screen right now, but again, I'm not doing a single goddamn fucking amount of editing for this video. I have to get this out today, after all. The most I'll do is cut out these weird pauses that I keep having over and over again, and maybe segments like this, where I go off on weird fucking tangents. This video is probably going to be 3 hours long, but I'll chop it down to 1 somehow, because I keep going on tangents like this one. This very one. Stop! This very tangent you're watching right now. Anyways, Cinema. This was adapted into the Heaven's Feel manga, and is essentially, Shiro tells Illya, I'll do whatever you want. Just please forgive me for not noticing you sooner. And they go to the park one last time, and it's a really somber conversation. It's not even a conversation, he just watches Illya play in the snow. You know, it's that iconic CG that was used in Fate Stay Night Trial Edition. And I had never seen this until when I constructed this list rather recently, and it was really beautiful scene. Once she leaves, Shiro thinks to himself, I don't know why, but I have the feeling I'll never see this girl again. And of course, I like homesickness for what it does for Illya herself and showing her kind of come to grips with the loss of Kiritsugu. But I have to admit, I really do like what homesickness does, just thematically, because it makes it seem like Illya will never come back. Like, this is the last moment the two will have like this. And so when Illya shows up again on the 9th day, kind of like an angel in the night to guide Shiro to the right option, it's kind of ethereal in a sense. You really get the feeling that Illya is an angel in this scene, just coming out to save Shiro, and for that, it works well. I do think homesickness works better for the character. Again, reasonings described at length in my Fate Stay Night Heaven's Feel Illya analysis. Moving on to our next topic, we have grievances with that very Illya analysis. Just all 3 videos, love them, but at the same time, God, do I fucking cringe at them. Mostly because my voice, I don't know if you can hear it, or if it even comes through right now, but my voice, I feel like it's come such a long way since then. Like, I was stiff, awkward, and when I did that impression of Illya, I cringed internally every time I rewatched that. But I do technically have at least somewhere in the top 10 Illya impressions on the internet, because nobody's brave enough to do what I do. This is an attack, Twitter user at Unilunar. Hit me with your best Illya impression, damn it. Moving on to other grievances I have with it. I feel a bit long-winded at times. Like, I really could have shortened the script in some areas, especially in that Heaven's Feel video, which I feel like really beat the point over the viewer's head. But at the same time is good because some people need that point beat into their heads. I mean, maybe we didn't read the same visual novel, but it really does. And I don't care if this sounds fucking pretentious. It really does bother me when people read the visual novel and just act like, I loved Heaven's Feel, but those Illya scenes just felt so forced. They're important to the plot, like, and I get not liking a character. I mean, I have characters I don't like, but everyone has characters they don't fucking like. But at the same time, you have to recognize that those scenes are relevant to the plot in some form of fashion. But ultimately, I feel like I could have been a bit more concise with those videos. I felt like my tone of voice could have been more elegant, more not forced, because I at the time I was recording those, I was real close to the mic, trying to sound deep voice. This is a real serious time. I need to really convey what this means. What I want to do with my videos is I want to analyze this. Is that the word? Analyze? I want to analyze this. Oh god, this is an epitome all over again. Speaking of which, another grievance with that video, or videos, instead of epitome, I said epitome, which will haunt me to the end of my fucking days. But regardless, well, what was the point I was on? What was the point I was on? What was the point I was on about this video? Video? Yeah, this one right here. What was the point I was on? But epitome. I could have been more carefree with my tone, because what I want to do with my videos is I want to analyze stuff, yes, but at the same time, I want to convey my own personal emotions and thoughts about the work. And for instance, that is something I'm trying desperately to do with the maid analysis for Tsukihime, because I'm writing that in a very avant-garde style. It's still an analysis, mind you, but if it gets a bit fucking trippy at times, don't worry about it. That's just me. That's just me trying to experiment a bit, because I insert some life stories into there and how they tangentially relate back to the plot. Because overall, it might seem off topic at first, but I promise it comes together just to like interweave like a DNA strand, except the DNA strand meets at the end and you find real beauty in it. Or at least I thank you while I'm still writing the fucking script. My god, how am I not done with it? I'm like 25 pages, jeez. Anyways, moving on to the next point on our list, we have Carnival Phantasm is the best Fate show. A point I will still stand by, but Essentially, this video was just going to be me sucking Carnival Phantasm's dick, and then just to do this proverbially real quick. Okay, this right here is Carnival Phantasm. This is me reviewing Carnival Phantasm. Oh my god, this is so great. Look at all the great scenes we have. Oh my god, I fucking love this so much. It's so good. And then I was going to end the video with me looking at the scene where Illya says, "I don't need my own route," or something to that effect, and I was going to look at Carnival Phantasm real close, get real in depth with it, and just look at it and do something akin to this. Yeah, Carnival Phantasm's great. It's all on YouTube if you want to go watch it, which if you haven't, I'd recommend it. But first, actually I don't recommend it, because let's talk about what you need to experience to properly enjoy Carnival Phantasm. Because it's more than you think. We have Fate Stay Night, Fate Hollow Ataraxia. I do this like I'm editing something, but I know I'm not going to. Fate Stay Night, Fate Hollow Ataraxia, Tsugihime, Kagetsu Toya, Melty Blood, Actress again to some extent, Racked Cadenza, the second Melty Blood game, that to some extent, Melty Blood, Back Alley Alliance, which is the only thing we have with Satsuki as the main character. I hold that series near and dear to my heart. Sorry, dogs are barking at the moment. You'll have to give me some leeway on that if it comes through in the microphone. But essentially, it's like 2 Fate Stay Night visual novels, all Tsukihime. And trust me, those Tsukihime jokes land so hard once you actually experience the work. Personally speaking, I find the Tsukihime portions way funnier because they don't rely on the same tired jokes like, ooh, Sakura is a yandere, ooh, Saber likes to eat, ooh, Rin is a tsundere, she doesn't know what technology is. You know, it doesn't rely on that stuff. It's really well thought out, really well crafted. It's beautiful, man. Moving on to our next video idea, we have Illya in the Character Materials books. Character Material book? How Nasu talks about her and my own thoughts on what he says focus on authorial intent. I already covered this in the Illya lore video, damn it. Fuck. Why did I wrap so many subjects into that one video? I need to have a mountain of topics that I'm talking about right now so that I can come through for Illya month and just complete it. No, I can't. Okay. Authorial intent. I can hone in on that. Authorial intent. What Nasu says about Illya in terms of, Heaven's Feel is the best. Illya doesn't need a route. There's already Prisma Illya. I covered it briefly in that Illya lore video, but to summarize my thoughts on this matter, what he says about stuff like that is wacky as shit. Because, they both agreed that Illya's original design and intent was better for the character, better for the story they were trying to convey, even. And honestly, I prefer that original design. That design, it's so good. That was the least crispy slap I've done in years. Camera angles probably changed a slight bit, but the next topic on the docket for today is Illya in Hollow Ataraxia. This was going to be I don't know how the fuck I was going to fit this into my time expenditures, but my idea was to work on this in the background all month before I realized that was fucking impossible. Illya in Hollow Ataraxia. This is going to be akin to the Illya in Heaven's Feel analysis, where we just talk about all the wonderful Illya scenes in Hollow Ataraxia, how it kind of does take scenes from the Illya route itself, and again, kind of theory proven in that Illya lore video, which please go watch. Editing that killed me. I need more people to watch that. But it was It was going to be an interesting video. I mean, just off the top of my head, we can talk about Illya bedtime real quick. So that scene, it's a sweet scene. I've reread it a few times during the course of this month, but what happens in that scene is Sella is being mean to Shiro because Illya likes Shiro, but Shiro is an enemy of the Ainsburn, so Sella has to be mean to him, right? So Shiro, I need to be closer to the mic, I just realized, but Shiro has to sleep in the attic, and, you know, depending on the choices you make, Shiro can just always sleep in the attic, or Shiro gets confronted by Illya late at night, and they go to sleep in her bed, just in a wholesome way. Which you don't always have to sleep in a sexual way. No, this is a very wholesome scene. She snuggles up to him, and it's really, it just completes that whole character arc, I guess is the word I'm looking for, that we saw in Heavensville, with Illya kind of getting comfortable enough with someone to call them family, to call them her own. No, it's beautiful in that sense, because even when Shiro brings up memories of her past in terms of, hey, Illya, did you ever do this with anyone? Like, your mother, she gets really tense. Like, it's... And then he calms her back down. I love that shit. That's the kind of stuff I live for. It's... I assume I don't have to describe why that is indeed so wholesome. But the rest of the video was essentially going to follow this trend, but overall, over the course of this month, I kind of found doing an Illya Hollow Ataraxia analysis superfluous, because what you just witnessed right now, that would be the entire video, just stretched out for like 20 minutes, where I talk about every single scene, which, there are many great scenes. Illya talking with Angra in the courtyard, and kind of consoling him in a sense, and taking responsibility as a member of the Ainsburn, shows her growing from only accepting Shiro. You know, because in Heavensfield, you kind of had two different sides to Illya. One was Illya as the Ainsburn master, you know, win the Guerrilla War at any cost, and the other side was kind of Shiro, grudge, Kuritsugu, kill him, love him, maybe. Ooh, I don't know. But ultimately, it was two different sides. You know, you had calm, emotionless, visceral, filled with emotion. But in this scene, I kind of called the last scene, Illya bedtime, the culmination of this side of the Illya accepting, trying to get Shiro as his family in a sense, as her family in a sense. But this is kind of a combination of both of those sides of her, because she takes responsibility for Angra because she is a member of the Ainsburn, but she also recognizes that this is just a man who, like her, has had a fucked up past, needs consoling in a sense, and she's willing to give that to him, even if briefly. You know, that it is a crime against humanity that scene does not have a CG, because there's a few pieces of fan art of it, but it is a really emotionally touching scene. It's a shame it doesn't have a CG. It's the culmination of those two sides, and again, it's a shame there wasn't an Illya route for more people to explore this, because I think, at least in the West at least, like the number of people who've read Fate Stay Night is like here, and the number of people who've read Hollow Ataraxia is like here. Like, that's a big disparity, and it's an unfortunate disparity, because Hollow Ataraxia is legitimately great. It's no Kagetsu Toya, but it is pretty great. Moving on to our next topic, we have why I love this character. Me, personally. This is either going to be very quick or the longest portion of the video. I don't know how long I can talk about this, but let me paint a picture for you. It was what a cliche to start this. Cliche way to start it, I should say. It was about over a year ago at this point. First semester of college, I was very fucking depressed after watching Evangelion and kind of having nothing but failed relationships for 2 years, and before that, having a very toxic relationship for 2 years. Over the course of this semester, I hardly got any sleep, or rather, I would sleep all the time. I don't get any sleep now. That's the difference between you and me, sleepy. But I hardly got any sleep, or I got too much sleep around that time because I just spent it sleeping during the day, staying up at night, just thinking about my life, trying. Because I had recently watched Evangelion. I recognized all the faults in myself. It was just a matter of applying ways to accept it and make it better. And I'd come off the heels of not really trusting anyone emotionally, kind of being distant from everyone in a sense. Like, I had friends and people. I didn't really have friends at that point anyway, actually. I mean, I talked to one person I still talk to regularly, but it was largely just casual string away. It was like one thread hanging before I became a fucking NEET. But I had one person I would talk to, but it was nothing but casual conversation. I didn't have anybody I felt like I could console deeply. I had always been the person doing the consoling in all of my relationships, friendships, platonic and otherwise. But I just felt like I had nobody I could talk to at the time. And, after nights, weeks, months of doing nothing but sleeping and waking up, and I didn't focus in class because I felt like I had to reconcile this with myself. There was nothing I could do but really do nothing. It was a real depressing time. I was trapped in this spiral that I just couldn't get out of. And then key in, like near the end of the semester, right as winter break is starting, I think, I started playing Fate Stay Night. Because, I'd heard about the Fate series for a really long time. I was enamored with it in a sense. I didn't know a thing about it somehow. I'm so thankful I went into that without spoilers, but I went into it without spoilers, started reading it, and was hooked. Like, I'm pretty sure I read that entire visual novel in like a week. All 3 routes. It was a lovely time. Just beautiful time. And what really hit home for me was that UBW scene. Because, over the Fate route, you get attached to Illya. You kind of see her as this figure you want to protect. Then you get to UBW and that flashback scene where a bit of her past is shown to you. Like, she also was emotionally distant for these reasons presented, those reasons being her father left her, my father left at a young age. I mean, he eventually did come back, but he left for a young age and was just gone for years. So I kind of related that in a sense. I did have some kind of vendetta against him for the longest time due to that. I felt like I needed that figure in my life to actually become a more fulfilled person. I just didn't have that opportunity. But her father left for years, and she really didn't have anyone she could talk to. And I really related to that. I had no real, like, I had classroom friends. That's what I like to call them. I had classroom friends, people I would talk to every now and again, just during class. This goes for both high school and not really in college. I mean, I had one classroom friend, but largely that was just me moving from place to place silently. But in high school, I had classroom friends, people I would talk to specifically only in class, nowhere else. So when I would go home, I would just think about my own life, get these introspective thoughts that I still continue to have to this day and I don't know if you can tell it, I kind of live a life of isolation, just a little bit, but, seeing Ilya go through something similar, even though hers was on a way bigger scale, you can still kind of relate to it in a sense. Like that just gripped me very deeply. And then she died. She had died before the scene took place, and I knew that, but coming back to the scene, she had just died without doing anything in her life, without really fulfilling her goals, which was a vindictive goal, an evil goal, you could even say, in killing Shiro out of revenge, but she hadn't even done that. She had just died, done nothing with her life. And I realized I was doing nothing with my life at the time. Just doing nothing but getting trapped in the same spiral of emotions, same spiral of thoughts that I just couldn't break out of. Then I started reading Heaven's Feel. And if that scene in UBW gripped me, Heaven's Feel just straight up took me for a ride, because what happened in Heaven's Feel was, I described it at length plenty, but she, regardless of any past grudge, she learned to love someone, both on a familial level, yes, but on a emotional level. Emotional, is that the word I'm looking for? But anyway, she learned to love someone in Shiro. That's what matters. And due to that love, she was able to move on from her grudges, move on from that spiral of emotions that had trapped her for such an ungodly amount of time. 10 years in a frozen wasteland. Very ironic, I realize, or very symbolic the Ironsburn Castle is of Illya herself. And spring came for her in a sense. She was able to have conversations with somebody, talk with somebody again, despite all of this nonsense that she had gone through, and learn to care about someone deeply other than herself. Even then, she didn't really care about herself. She constantly threw her life away to protect that one person she had loved so dearly. Just really, I apologize if I'm all over the place at the moment, but I'm trying my best to illustrate why I love this character. As her specific thing in Heaven's Feel just hit me really deeply. She had grown from someone who had only had a grudge pushing her along this one menial goal, which wasn't even a goal by the fourth day of the route. She didn't want to kill Shiro anymore. She had realized that what she actually wanted was somebody to love, somebody to help her, push her in the right direction. And she did. When she went with Sakura on the 14th day of the route, she was clearly sad about it, but when she sacrificed herself at the end of the route for Shiro, it was with a smile. She just wanted to protect her little brother. And it hit home for me quite a bit. Because I wanted a drive like that in my life, something I could wholeheartedly devote myself to. And over the next semester of college, I really thought about that over and over. I started developing a script for Heaven's Feel itself. I read Hollow Ataraxia during that time and fell even more in love with her character. But I started writing a script for a video, like I said earlier, and well, that was the Cherry Blossoms Dream video, which I still cringe to watch to this day. That's what gave me the drive to actually start writing and do all of this. I became impassioned about something. I fell in love with making scripts, writing videos, and editing them, even though I am terrified of my editing software at the moment. For those 40-hour sessions will do a number on you. But I just absolutely was enamored with the whole process. I found something to be passionate about, like Illya found something to be passionate about, and that only made me relate to the character even more so. I kind of went on a overly obsessive binge, in a sense, of all the Illya content I could, which wasn't much, but it was enough to make me start to write my own route, start to make me really learn to take in art and appreciate it more. I wouldn't be recording this right now. I wouldn't have made any of the videos I've made, obviously, without that character, without Illya. And, for that, I am eternally grateful. And, I hope maybe someone else can see where I'm coming from with all this. Again, really scattered thoughts, I realize, but just love this character. That's the whole intention for this month. But with all of that said, that was officially my last topic. This was a list of like 22 before I started out, but I don't think that quite covers it, so shit. I mean, what else is left to talk about? I mean, I feel like there's nothing more I can talk about. I do have 2 videos in the editing software, but does this even make up 30? Does it? I legitimately don't know. Somebody tell me in the comments if I've reached 30 at this point, but if not, I suppose I'll go on. I suppose I'll I'll start making up topics on the spot. Let me tell you about the best purchase I've ever made. This Illya plushie was $30 on Amazon when I bought it, and $10 shipping, mind you, but it's still the best purchase I've ever made. I mean, this thing is giving me more emotion, more. I've hugged this plushie more than I have an actual person all year. Think about that. That's wacky. Or at least it feels like I have. But yeah, okay, so that's one topic done. It's not on Amazon anymore. I think I might have got the last one legitimately, but I do implore you, buy it when you can. It's like, it was promotional for Emiya Gohan, I believe. I'm trying to get a Shiro and maybe Sakura one. Because those are also some very good characters that I would like to have. And I know Saber and Ren are probably going to be impossible to get, though it would be nice to complete the entire collection one day. Okay, so that's another topic done. Oh, what's another thing I can make a video about? Satsuki Yumizuka's pretty cool. Every time, boom, I just snuck in another reference to Satsuki Yumizuka. Problem solved. This video is now actually, it's a holistic work at this point. I can call it complete now. Thank God. I was worried I wasn't going to be able to sneak another reference into there. What else can I make a video about? Looking around my room like I have this great amount of Illya merchandise, which I know I don't, but yeah, there's got to be something. Yeah, kind of running out of ideas at this point, aren't I? Fuck. Well, closing ceremonies. That'll make up for another topic, hopefully. Please tell me this brings us up to 30. I should have started. I should have kept count, honestly, but hopefully this brings us up to 30, counting the videos I have in the editor right now, which is 2, and hopefully they won't come out late, which they probably will, but please forgive me. But yeah, because there's no way I can edit both of those today, especially the Dean video. That is quite a workload, believe it or not. Which there isn't a terrible amount of changes, but there's just enough every episode that it drives me up a wall. I'll probably have to reread the Fate Route again, but rereading Typeman visual novels say it isn't so. But closing ceremonies, overall, hopefully this month was somewhat successful. Kind of had to do a last minute this hour, well over an hour long mess. But I'd say overall, this has been a fun month. I think my video production has gotten a lot better, which was one of the main goals from the beginning. And just overall, I had fun. I hope you had fun, viewer. Hashtag Illya is the best girl. You know, it's a shame Unlimited Codes never came out for the original Xbox. I would finally have an excuse to plug it up to play something other than Shadow the Hedgehog. But, yeah, love Illya. Love you all. And most importantly, over this process, over these months and months, I've learned to love myself. Peace out, everyone. That's it for me. Hopefully, we'll see you somewhat soon, somewhere in Tsukihime.